Yo everybody, what's going on? This is Keegan from Kman Reviews. If you enjoyed this review, make sure you hit that like and the subscribe button. And if you have any opinions at all that you would like to share, make sure to leave them down in the comment section. MidAir Thief, Gongjoong Doduk. MidAir Thief is the alias of an anonymous Korean singer, songwriter, multi-instrumentalist, and producer, an artist who I've never heard of until I got the request to cover his critically acclaimed sophomore album, Crumbling, which I also did a review on. There will be a link in the corner if you want to go check out that review. I'm glad that review seemed to get a lot of attention, and I'm also surprised by how many people asked me to review MidAir Thief's debut album, Gongjoong Doduk, which I really hope I'm pronouncing correctly, released in 2015 and roughly translates to about public etiquette. After adoring Crumbling, this was already fairly high in my queue, but with each request, that really only pushed this album higher and higher. So I figured what a way to start 2022 in reviews and with the most highly requested album I've ever had to review. So let's not waste any more time, let's just dive right in. What are my thoughts on Gongjoong Doduk? Let's find out as I review it track by track. Since I couldn't find if there were any singles, we will just start at the top of the track list, with that being White Room, which opens up as a calm, folky ditty with a country twang, letting this acoustic guitar kick off the song with Thief's echoey, almost haunting vocals. But of course, with this being MidAir Thief, that wasn't just gonna stay like that, as this guitar slowly starts to get more colorful in its execution, evolving even more into this low-key, eerie beat. There's this shrill synth melody that almost sounds like a theremin. There's an ominous ambience that sounds like the crackling of an analog tape or VHS static. There's light, playful jingles that sound like little toy keys that you would give to children. It's actually pretty captivating just how chilling this comes off. Plus, these vocals gain a few new harmonies and effects here and there, some much deeper, some vibrate in and out of the mix, some I'm almost certain are an uncredited female vocalist. Very enticing opener and a great song. Seismic has a very infectious melody early on. I love the faster paced acoustic guitar strumming, a lot of fun little triplet strums in there as well that are extremely impressive, but I also really love how smoothly this guitar evolves into a bright yet powerful wall, letting Thief's delicate yet deep delivery emanate as the guitar mellows back out for the next verse. Certainly one of the most cohesive songs on the album, and also presents a lot of fun folktronica experimentation that would only be expanded upon in the follow-up Crumbling. I'm talking unique and gripping production choices. The very first few seconds play out like a warm campfire scene with someone casually strumming. There's some little glitchy beeps present, more static that came from the opener White Room. There's some piercing string work that makes its way into the first climax of the song, but it isn't anything outright grating. Everything in this song just feels so meticulous. It's one of my favorite aspects of Thief's music, and the signs of greatness were certainly there from this song. Amazing stuff. Parasol, which is a track that almost kind of feels like a bit of an interlude in this album. It's 2 minutes long, doesn't really have the time to undergo any staggering production changes, and as a result, doesn't leave the strongest impact on the album. The opening few seconds are pretty typical for the folky acoustic pop direction this album is largely dominated by. The guitar melody is very simple and inoffensive, as the tamed bashing of the drums keep a steady groove. Of course, this track still does have its moments. I like the fizzly, distorted, yet brief eruptions that reveal themselves every now and then transition into this whimsical synthesized segment that is fluid as all hell, with some luscious synths, electric guitar flourishes, and even a vibraphone melody which is very pleasing to the ears. It's very well produced and it shines in many ways. Not a bad tune here, but I personally just wish it was longer. Woo kicks off in the same way that a majority of this album has so far, but this one almost has a bit of a summery and tropical garnish in the guitar work, like I'm listening to carefree acoustics while on a vacation in the Pacific on a nice beach. The melodies are infectious and fun, even featuring some cheesy woohoos in there. The tone starts to sink a bit around the minute mark, but then becomes even brighter and meatier with some synths and woodwind melodies in there, which only leads to the track going through another moody tonal shift. But then, almost out of nowhere, the track mutates into this glitchy, distorted, chaotic outro, manic guitar accelerating clapping as the guitar notes become warped and mangled, transforming into this cacophonous blossom of almost noise music. Extremely garbled bass, piercing beats, and ending on what sounds like the flick of a TV station to another channel, as some distorted, unintelligible voice speaks and laughs over static. It's quite an unexpected detour, but man, it's a riveting song to go through. Certainly a highlight. Swamp, ironically enough, actually starts out very clean and polished. A sweet, calming ukulele melody accompanied by some bubbly, jubilant vibraphone. It's certainly a delightful and pleasant way to open up a song, but then the melody starts to decompose, leaving the listener in this vulnerable ambience as the tone of the original instrumental goes from sunny to a moody haze. Not necessarily depressing, but just unnerving. And Thief's vocals express this, being monotone but with some light harmony to provide a bit of comfort. I like the addition of deeper chiming that almost sounds like bells ringing in a ghost town. The buildup of some punchy percussion is very gratifying, but then the track finally lives up to its name, introducing this dirty, grimy bass that bounces very well off the drums and balances the line between vibe and banger. Just as quickly as it came in, it's gone, ending the song with an impassioned vocal performance from Thief as his harmonies and the throbbing beat distortions fade out gradually. What an amazing journey of a song. Moons is certainly one of the richer and more lush tunes on the album, kicking off with a spare yet warm piano melody that almost makes me feel like I'm going to be getting just a soft piano ballad, but of course, this is MidAir Thief I'm talking about here, and that initial thought wears away quickly when the guitar comes back a few seconds later, but combined with the piano work, it adds a whole new depth and layer that seem to have been absent for a lot of this album, feeling very wholesome and honest. Though that feeling does not last long when the cacophonous fusion of multiple instruments and noises comes in halfway through the tune. It's certainly an unexpected addition with the pulsating vocal effect, quirky bubbly synths, shrill keyboards, the guitar suddenly becoming very asynchronous. It's abrasive yet very beautiful at the same time. After a while of that, the bulk dense guitar almost turns into percussion with its cyclical strumming, before just fading back into normality and letting the track end just as softly as it began. This one was definitely an album highlight for me. Great stuff. Maybe featuring Oma, which I hope I'm pronouncing correctly, and roughly translates to mom or mother, is the shortest track on the album, just a little longer than 1 minute, and it follows a very similar formula to the rest of the album, but of course being more condensed to fit the runtime. As a result of that, it's hard for me to classify this as an interlude, but it's also not like an unfinished song either. It's very well done. The guitar work, of course, takes center stage. There's some amazing vocal harmonies and effects done here. There's some interesting and captivating additions to spice up the song a bit more, especially this perky, bubbly descending melody. At the same time, though, there's not some outright mind-blowing moment of the song. It just kind of runs along, which is not something I would have expected to say about Thief's music. So, certainly not the most memorable at all. It's not terrible either, but it just kind of exists. And finally, the closer, The Knot, is the longest track on the album, just over 7 minutes long, starting out in the same way the rest of the songs here have. Light, calm acoustics, but this one really has a mellow weight to it. The guitar is serene and Thief's vocals are airy and pillowy, barely above a whisper. After a bit, we start to get some whistling woodwinds and plunky keys that give the instrumental a bit more density as it gets louder, but then reverts back down to a near silence as a traditional poppy acoustic melody radiates out and has a real solid swing to it. But then also factoring this newfound brass, some shakers, zipping synths, and a steady pound of the percussion, easily solidifying this song as probably one of the most accessible songs on the album, maybe even of Thief's entire career. The song relishes in this buoyant energy for a while before almost going through a faux ending, having that same kind of dramatic, held-out note like a lot of closing tracks have done before, but this one sinks down into a calm ambience with layered, reverberated cooing, practically fading out again, and letting the last minute of the album wallow in the melancholy of a shadowy guitar with various instrumental assistants, like light piano and obscure methods of percussion. It's not even a melodic closer, it almost comes off like unhinged, and is a very ominous, but a fitting way to finish the album. Overall, this album is sufficiently good. I can say that with 100% certainty. Lots of warm melodies, adventurous sonic journeys, and an abundance of experimentation as I expected. However, I cannot say this album stands up to Crumbling. The foundation of what would eventually become Crumbling is here, but Crumbling had so much more flair and bounce. Every song felt unique on that record. And I cannot say the same for Gongjoong Doduk, in that this album follows a tight and strict formula, but the details of that formula can be arranged around and mixed and matched a lot more. But pretty much every track on this album follows the same acoustic openings and have a similar unorthodox explosive climax. Admittedly, they're all very well done. That's not to discredit the production or Thief's undeniable talent as a musician and songwriter, but Crumbling had that it factor of making every track really stand out, whether it's in the opening notes or a passage buried somewhere. And Gongjoong Doduk didn't really give me that same feeling, so while I can't put it on the same pedestal as Crumbling, I can recognize this album for being a colorful, divergent, and gripping listen, but also an album that would become a crucial stepping stone for Thief's future endeavors. I am feeling a very solid 7.5 out of 10 on this album. Well guys, hope you enjoyed that review. Thank you all so much for watching, and I will see you in the next one. Peace!